The original Karate Kid versus Johnny's #1 student. What's happening, fellow Cobras? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be bringing back an old series we've done here before, where I take two characters from the Cobra Kai and Karate Kid universe, past or present, match them up, examine where they stand in 4 specific categories of experience, fighting style, athleticism, and intelligence. And once that's all said and done, we will determine who would come out on top. In this video, we'll be looking at Daniel LaRusso from the original Karate Kid film, facing off against Miguel Diaz from Season 2 of Cobra Kai. Before we get started, if this is your first time with us and you love Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, consider joining our dojo today by hitting the red subscribe button down below and turning on all notifications so you don't miss anything. Now, this matchup would be one of the more interesting ones we could ever see in the Karate Kid universe, and likely one of the closest. In terms of experience, Daniel and Miguel started training right around the same time in the fall, right before their school year started. But since we're specifically talking Season 2 Miguel and Karate Kid 1 Daniel, that would mean that Daniel would only have about 3 months of training, while Miguel would have around a year's worth of training. I'm not entirely sure on how often each of them was training during these time frames, but if I were to guess, I would say that Daniel was at Mr. Miyagi's house almost every day to focus on learning as much as he can to be prepared for the tournament. As for Miguel, I'd say he was at the dojo at least a few times a week. As for fighting style, this one's pretty obvious. Daniel, of course, has a more defensive-oriented way of fighting, as Miyagi-Do's first rule of karate is that karate is for defense only, and Miguel is definitely a polar opposite of Daniel, focusing more on offense due to Cobra Kai's first rule being to strike first. And during this matchup, Miguel would probably look to be the aggressor to try to gain an upper hand on Daniel, but Daniel would definitely strive against Miguel's aggressiveness, as this is exactly what he's training for, being in the Miyagi-Do dojo. But measuring the athleticism for each fighter is a bit of a landslide, with Miguel being far more athletic than Daniel is. I'm sure most of you would agree with me. But athleticism isn't always the determining factor as far as a fight goes, but it can still give someone the upper hand over the other. To support this, it's also worth mentioning that Daniel has beaten the likes of Chosen, Johnny, and Mike Barnes, who were far more athletic than him. So it just goes to show that the athleticism of a person isn't the end-all be-all when facing off against someone else. But now, intelligence is one of the most important aspects in the world of martial arts. How smart you are in a fight setting usually can be the determining factor for the outcome, unlike athleticism per se. And with Daniel having such a wise sensei like Mr. Miyagi, it reflects off on him into Daniel with his teachings and advice that he's given to him in the past. I'm not saying that Miguel or Johnny is dumb or anything. They're both very intelligent fighters as well, but they just seem to take more risks than Mr. Miyagi or Daniel would. And plus, the intelligence of Johnny just doesn't even compare to the intelligence of Mr. Miyagi. Now, my prediction is that in a tournament setting, it would be a very, very close match. Daniel and Miguel would go toe-to-toe with one another, and each of them would score 2 out of the 3 points. So it'd be a tie score, next point wins. And in the final round, Daniel would just narrowly best Miguel, much like he did with Johnny in the Karate Kid 1. And yes, even though Miguel would be aware of the crane kick, it wouldn't be enough to defeat Daniel because of his lack of training and the tournament catering to a more defensive styles of karate. But let's say we're on the street. If we're on the street, that's a totally different story, without any rules or referees, of course. I think Miguel would definitely take Daniel out. Not so much with ease, really, but I'm just saying it won't be too difficult for him. Like, if you just look at Daniel struggling to defend himself against Mike Barnes in Karate Kid 3, it just shows that Daniel doesn't really have what it takes to be competitive in a street fight, at least when he was a teenager. And this is why I kind of understand where Kreese is coming from when he says, you know, all that Miyagi-Do mumbo jumbo, it may score you points in a tournament, but now you're in the real world, that kind of thing. I just think Daniel's karate is more designed for a tournament setting rather than on the street, where Cobra Kai's style of karate has proven many times to be a lot more successful in the street. So my final thoughts is that the Karate Kid 1 Daniel would beat Season 2 Miguel in a tournament setting, but Season 2 Miguel would beat Karate Kid 1 Daniel if they were to face off on the street somewhere. That being said, guys, that'll do it for this video. Be sure to let me know down below in the comments section whether you agree or disagree with my prediction as to who would win this fight matchup. Also, let me know what characters you want to see me match up next. You guys know what to do. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay updated on Cobra Kai and Karate Kid content. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.